Two happy women bringing you inspiring stories, politics, pop culture, and lifestyle hacks, all with an eye to making our communities and our country a better place to live. It's the Happy Women Podcast with your hosts, Jen Horn and Katie Gorka.
Kamala at the Met Gala and Trump saving Hollywood. Two headlines I didn't think I would ever hear, but we're going to dive into both of those on the Happy Women Podcast. I'm Jennifer Horn.
And I'm Katie Gorka.
All right. And lots going on. But before we jump into some of the news of the day, Katie, you and I were together this past weekend. It was the Happy Women Roadshow. And it was so much fun. You came out to an event that I planned through my local radio station. I do the morning show at AM 870 and AM 590, The Answer. And we had our Unite IE Conservative Summit, which had just under 800 people in attendance. And we had all kinds of incredible speakers, including yourself, Sonia. We had Riley Gaines, Stephen Moore was there via video. We had Larry Elder and an Assemblyman, Carl DeMaio, local Assemblyman, some local DAs. It was an all-day thing. It was exhausting, but it was fun. And I think a lot of people left feeling inspired to get more involved. At least that's my hope.
You know what I loved about that event is actually the backstory. So I think this was the 11th one that you've done, right? Mm-hmm. And the way it started was actually through the guy that introduced us, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't it Don Dix who introduced us? So Don Dix was a local radio host who really cared about his community and was frustrated by seeing the, hard left turn in California. And he decided to do something about it. First of all, he was a great connector. He was so good about connecting people who we thought needed to know each other. So I love that he connected us. But the other thing was he started this gathering to bring conservatives together. And it is such a powerful testimony to what one person can do, to think that now you bring 800 people together for this extraordinary event. And what I loved about it as well were the number of people in the audience who are running for office, who are running for school board, or just, really stepping up. And I have to say the highlights of it for me were, first of all, Riley Gaines, who,
amazing.
I've known her. I've talked to her. I interviewed her for my book, but I never heard her actually give a speech. I was blown away. She has so much composure and she is just such an incredible voice. So I'm waiting for her to run for Congress because I thought she was great. And
did you hear me ask her? I said, what? She going to run for office? She said, well, we have some other priorities, but yeah. I hope that she does.
No, she was an amazing speaker. And the other person I just really loved was Sonia. Yeah. So tell me more about her background, because you're friends with her, right? You've known her for a while.
Our first guest on this podcast, and she's the real deal. She's who we talk about. She was someone who had kids, had a husband, had a job, didn't really think much about politics at all. In fact, she was a Democrat. She would vote Democrat, just kind of did her thing until COVID hit. And she saw what was going on around the state and how they were going after people of faith and how they were going after schools and kids and sending everybody home. And our state of California, was really, really bad. We were closed down for about 18 months. And so she was seeing what was going on in her kids' classrooms, and she started listening to the curriculum because she was hearing them doing Zoom classes at home. I mean, how many times have we heard this story? And so she decided that she had to jump into the fight. And so the way that I even came into connection with her, she made local news in Southern California. All of the local news outlets were there. She was already school board president. She had become school board president. And the superintendent of schools had come to sit in her meeting from Sacramento. He came down, sat in her meeting, and was trying to interrupt. They were trying to pass a parental notification policy, and he was trying to interrupt. And so she put him in his place, and basically at one point actually had him escorted out of the meeting. And he thought he could run things. And she said, this is my meeting. I'm the president. You need to follow the rules. And so she gave him the boot. And ever since then, she's really had the eye. She's been the target of Gavin Newsom, of Rob Bonta, Tony Thurmond. They've all personally sued her for the parental notification policies that she passed in the Chino Valley Unified School District. And she's fought them all, and she's won. She's had a lot of wins. So she's now running for superintendent of schools, which is a huge undertaking. It's going to cost a lot of money, but I'm just so proud of her for taking the next step, because she knows there's more to be done outside of her school district. And it would be a really great way to have a huge impact to get her in that position. Hey guys, it's Jennifer Horn and Katie Gorka from the Happy Women podcast. And we are both so excited to talk to you about my PhD, weightloss.com. The PhD weight loss program has worked for Katie. She is in maintenance. I am still going through my journey, but Katie, I just told you this last weekend, I threw out a stack of clothes that no longer fit. I mean, it's time for a new wardrobe. That's right. I'm excited about that. It's a good problem to have, I guess.
I was so excited because I actually had to get rid of almost my entire winter wardrobe, because I went from a size 12 to a size 8. And it's funny because I kept a few of my favorite pieces and I put them on and they're like so baggy. I don't feel good in them. But yeah, it was absolutely an amazing program. And what I'm excited about, I'm now 2 years post weight loss, and I've been able to maintain my weight this whole time. So it's been great.
Incredible, incredible victories. Time to feel them for yourself. Call PhD Weight Loss right now, 864-644-1900, 864-644-1900, or myphdweightloss.com. Use code Jen, myphdweightloss.com, code Jen.
So one of the things about her story that really got to me was the ugliness of what she has had to deal with.
She's been through it.
Incredible. The death threats, she said people travel down from other parts of the state to try to attack her. And so I had that in my mind anyway, because I was really appalled by that. And just put, her kids being at risk, right? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of on my mind to start with. And then yesterday I saw a Twitter post that along the same lines that really struck me. It really got to me. This is a guy named Matt Van Swol. He's on Twitter at Matt _ Van Swol, VANSWOL. And I've been following him for a while because he has done a better job than anybody of reporting every day on what's happening in Western North Carolina after the hurricane. And, I have a special attachment to this because I grew up part of my life in Asheville. So my mom used to have a shop down in Biltmore Village, which, the water went up to the roof line down in Biltmore Village. I mean, the whole thing was just, and that's where I used to go to church. So, I really have been watching Western North Carolina, and Matt has done an incredible job of posting. And by the way, I have to say, it's so worth following because the stories of the people that have been coming in to help are absolutely extraordinary. And here's what he said. This really hit me hard. So he said, he started out as a liberal, but he started covering this story, and he said he eventually turned, right? He's gone from liberal to conservative. And he said the thing that really changed his mind was actually, he said, the unwavering, unapologetic acts of kindness combined with the justification and motivation for them. So he said he always thought as a liberal, it's the left who's really kind and generous and thoughtful. But what he started to realize was they don't back it up with action. He said it was actually the conservatives who were coming in and delivering RVs, building houses. And he said, why are you doing this? And he just simply said, because no one else will. And it aligned with their beliefs. And he said, but they never asked what a person's politics were. They just came in and they helped. And I think the other thing on the flip side, he said that's the primary thing that turned him around. But he also has said he's been shocked by the way he's been attacked for lifting up these stories, showing the incredible altruism and kindness of people who've been coming in and helping. And it's just, I don't know how we stop this. And I find it a real dilemma as both a conservative and a Christian. I feel that I have to behave in a certain way. My heart needs to be in a certain place, right? I pull myself back. I don't want to hate anybody. I don't want to judge anybody. I really work hard to find the love in my heart for all people. But I don't know what to do with this ugliness and the animosity coming from the left. And I think there's a part of me that also feels like we have to stand up to it. And I don't think we stand up to it with hatred, but I think we stand up to it with justice, and righteousness or something. And yes, I still pray that there's room for grace, but I just think it's terrible the way the radical left thinks it can behave toward the rest of us.
I'm with you. And the sad thing is that, and I kind of go through the same thing where it can make you angry when you see the stuff that's going on out there, or the stuff that someone might do to someone we love, like Sonia Shaw, or somebody that we don't know, but that you might, I'm going to speak for myself, like Elon Musk. That makes me furious to see what they're doing to him, because it just, I don't understand it. But you can't carry around that anger, because then it makes you sick, right? You have to get rid of it. And why would you give someone the satisfaction? I don't know what the answer is. I think we have to stand up. I think we have to not let it darken our heart or, what's around us, our energy around us. But I think you have to call it out where it is. I just don't think we can be quiet anymore. I really don't. And you have to, it's a really fine line between letting yourself fall into that darkness. But I think you do it really well. And I know there are a lot of people out there who probably feel the same way, that they want to walk that line and figure out how to call out anger, hate, injustice, and still maintain a sense of positivity, love, and purpose.
And I think
how to do it? I don't know. It's rough.
Well, and I think Sonia Shaw is kind of perfectly exemplifies what you do, which is you don't let it silence you. You don't let it drive you into despair. And actually, you let it inspire you to go run for even bigger office. So I say, God bless her. And she deserves all of our support.
Absolutely. And I think her faith has really driven her too. She said she couldn't not speak out. And that was actually the theme of Riley Gaines' speech as well. She said, I was waiting for someone else to speak out. I was waiting for anyone to speak out. And when I realized they wouldn't, then I knew I had to. So they're definitely blessed by the hand of God. That's for sure. And they are guided in that direction. And thank goodness for them. Riley was just a darling. And to think that I told you she looks so young and she's so beautiful, but she's so composed, as you mentioned, just the way she presents herself. I thought she can't really only be, I'm thinking she's around 25, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's just so young, but you look at her and you just feel like she's got this much more mature soul. So that was really fun. Always great to see Larry Elder. And then the piece of news that was actually made and got some national headlines is that our former sheriff in LA County left the Democrat Party after 41 years. I want to say he was a registered Democrat. Said he was left behind by the party, and just like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, he decided to leave. So away he goes. We got another one back, at least one at a time. We're picking them off, Katie.
I totally missed that. I was in the green room talking to Riley. So I didn't realize that was his announcement.
That was his announcement.
And he hadn't announced it before?
He told me it was coming,
so
that I would give him some time. So I was carrying the secret.
I think that is so great.
And he really laid out the reasons why. The Democrat Party, when he started to run the LA Sheriff's Department, again, he was a Democrat for 40 years. He started running the Sheriff's Department like it should have been run. And when he started doing that, they lost support for him. They tried to get him out. They threw everything they could at him. And he said, you know what? I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not going to continue to support a party that doesn't support truth. And So he made the case, and he's been all over cable news. Fox News has had him on quite a bit. I know he did some hits on Newsmax. So he's
good.
definitely telling his story. It got him some headlines. It went viral. The video is pretty great. So yeah, so it was kind of fun. And it was great to have you there, just to have you there through that event. It's such a great one. And it is the reason we're actually together and friends and doing this podcast. And great story about the guy from North Carolina too. That something I think we have to remember is that just because it's over, these disaster areas don't just magically go back to normal. I was reading an article, I think it might have been in the LA Times this weekend, about someone who lives in Palisades who was told that they are not going to be able to get back into their home for 7 years. They said, yeah. So when you start to think about what a life-changing moment it is for someone to lose something and to have their house back and to be rebuilt, we got to remember these people. You know, it's like the fire goes out or the flooding stops, and then the country moves on. But there's still a lot to talk about. There's still road closures. There are still people cleaning up, still people rebuilding. So it's great that he's still highlighting that. And the stories that I think that I love to hear are the heroic people who step up when the government doesn't to come in and help.
Yeah. And incredible stories of particularly, I guess, the Amish have come in, and built houses. And he's telling another story today about somebody who's bought a big piece of land so that he can build houses on there for people who lost their houses. And I think he's also said that Marshall, North Carolina, one of the towns that was really wiped out, opened back up for business today.
Good. See, those are the good stories that we need to highlight. I love that.
Absolutely.
All right. On to news. So Hollywood's been in the news quite a bit lately. It's funny because there's been a total change of tune between some of the liberal Hollywood types from this week to last week. So last week, and this may not have made national headlines. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but Governor Newsom and the state legislature were voting on bills to try to incentivize productions to come back into California because Hollywood has lost a lot of its business to places outside, to Canada, to Georgia, to North Carolina. There are a lot of places that are taking these productions because they're cheaper. And so all of the people who were involved with Hollywood, all of the liberals were out there shouting, we've got to incentivize things. We've got to make it easier to film in California. Well, now cue President Trump, who comes out and says, maybe we should tariff these production companies who make films outside of the United States. Let's do it at 100%. Well, now the left is awfully quiet in California because where they probably would have loved that idea if it had been uttered by a Barack Obama type, if President Trump says it, they can't get on board, even though they were just rallying for just about the same thing last week. So it's been interesting to play this out. Do you have any big thoughts on what President Trump is putting out there about Hollywood?
Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot. I've long been really committed to the idea that conservatives made a big mistake when they walked away from Hollywood and let the left take over. And it's been just a huge source of frustration to me, particularly as I have learned more and more of really high ranking conservatives in major institutions that we all know the names of, who have all let themselves be silenced. And that just kills me. And then I also have friends who couldn't take it anymore and left and set up shop elsewhere, which I think is also great. But, this is a really important topic. The culture, that what comes out of Hollywood does so much to shape the culture. And why did we think that we could turn our backs on it and that it would not impact what goes on in the country at large? So on the one hand, I was super excited to see President Trump address it. Personally, and I am critical of almost nothing that he does, but I don't think tariffs on products coming from elsewhere for Hollywood are going to make a difference, because the problem is everything that's being made in Hollywood is such caca. It is just really garbage. And I was lamenting the other day. So because I was coming to see you on Saturday, I'd been with my daughter on Thursday, and I had a day in between. And normally in my past, to have a day to myself is like such a luxury, right? And one of my favorite things to do would have been to go to a movie, right? Which I don't
Nothing's
normally
out anymore.
I mean, there's like, I haven't wanted to see a movie in the longest time. So
I know.
I don't, how do you turn that around? And I really think his message should be, and I hope it might become this, like, I do really think it's a good sign that he's drawing attention to it. It says to me, he does understand the importance of it. What I really want to hear him say is, conservatives, you need to invest in television and film. We need to do a better job of producing content.
And quality stuff. We need to keep up with the quality that's out there. And I think that's a huge point. The tariff for me on stuff made outside of the country, I mean, whatever. I think it's better to incentivize people to want to bring their productions to the United States. But you also have to understand the craft and the art. And sometimes somebody's going to want to make a a film about the Louvre at the Louvre. They're not going to want to do it in downtown Detroit or something like that, So I think that there are some carve outs, obviously, for filming on location and such, as long as the production's done in the country. But I don't know. I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't think it's the top priority. I would certainly rather see incentives for people who make films in this country. But I'm more on your train of thought with just the junk that's coming out of Hollywood. Mother's Day is coming up. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, early. And I asked my mom what she would like to do. And she's like, gosh, I've really been wanting to go to the movies.
Oh,
and I went and we have this great theater actually near where you were staying in Pasadena. It's called the iPic, and they have the really beautiful like couch seats, and they serve you lunch. And it's like a very nice elevated movie experience. And so I looked to see what is playing, and it's, Thundercats and Minecraft. It's not exactly something my mom's going to want to go see. So I mean, it's a bummer. I feel like there's just a lot of garbage coming out, and I would love to see just better stories, just better quality movies. And I know COVID killed the movie business a little bit. I mean, everybody just seems to watch everything at home now, but I miss the experience of going to the movies. And don't tell PhD weight loss, sometimes getting popcorn and just, relaxing. Like Anyway, it's very sad. But did you know I also learned something about the Oscars? Maybe you heard this story, and I meant to bring it up. I think I actually wrote it down for us to talk about, and I forgot to tell you about it. But did you know that the foreign press, the ones that are not the foreign press, that's the Golden Globes, arts and sciences, that their voting members for the Oscars don't even have to watch the films?
What?
They just passed a new rule that starting in 2026, if you are going to vote in a category, you actually have to watch everything that's nominated in that category.
Okay,
that wasn't the rule before.
Rule.
So to me, if it just starts in 2026, means that nobody was watching these films, and that instead they were either picking the messagey ones, the ones that had the DEI, the one that's had the trans actor. I think this is a huge problem. I'm surprised more people are not talking about this. It's about time. If you're going to vote on an Academy Award winning movie, which means something to a lot of people, you better at least see all the films in the category.
Yeah. No, that's the truth.
Crazy?
Yeah.
Speaking of the Academy Awards, not quite the Oscars, but maybe even crazier fashion, the Met Gala was this past weekend. And I have to admit, it's one of my guilty pleasures to look through all the clothes that people wear to the Met. And if you've never seen them, there's always a theme, and the clothing is always very artistic. You can't just go pick up a regular dress and wear it, or people would think you're just not on brand. So the Met Gala this year, I thought, was really dialed down. It seemed very black and white. It didn't seem to have a lot of color, a lot of pantsuits. I was pretty surprised, actually. And I guess this year's theme was more about paying tribute to Black designers rather than a big theme like garden party. Or one year it was, they did one on the Catholics. You remember that one year? It was like,
no.
Oh, it's weird. A lot of weird stuff. So they didn't do a big grandiose theme, but what did you think of some of the fashion? I mean, there were still some interesting picks, that's for sure.
No, it was super interesting. And I think it's interesting to talk about the idea at the center of it, because I was reading that apparently it was partially inspired by a book called Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity. It's interesting. One of the movies not movies, but shows that was very impactful for me visually was it was Larry. What were Larry Elder's two films, right? He did the two films about
Uncle Tom.
And then Uncle Tom 2.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
That's right.
Uncle Tom 2 visually was an amazing film. It was very different from the first one. They're both great. They are super, super worth watching. But the second one was beautiful because it had a lot of archival footage of Black families, Black men and women, and the beautiful way that they dressed, right? In the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and 50s. And I feel like that's what you can really see in a lot of these costumes. You see a lot of menswear influence. So a lot of like suit looks, a lot of hats. And that's what it's a throwback to. But I'm also kind of like, I get the point of high fashion, right? It's a form of art. You want to break boundaries. But I just have an issue when clothing does not flatter the body. Right?
Oh, I know. And people still want to just put it on anyway.
So I just want to say, like, Rihanna's dress, is it a dress? I don't know. She's outfit.
Pregnant too. She just came out as being pregnant. I think she's like 5 months pregnant.
Yeah,
she's very pregnant.
It really shows. But I didn't love what she was wearing. And a lot of them were just like crazy. I'm trying to find, like, Lauryn Hill, okay, is in this yellow suit with like a huge yellow thing back here, yellow train going off here. It just looks, I'm sorry, it looks ridiculous. Tessa Thompson, she looks like, okay, I have to describe this. Okay. Cause we don't have the visual, right? So
we'll pop a few of these pictures up if you're watching the video feed, by the way.
Good. So Tessa Thompson is wearing like a very exaggerated white silk coat, which is slim in the waist, but then slim in the chest, but then like poofs way out in the waist. So with a silly hat on top. So she looks like a character out of Alice in Wonderland. And then you get Lisa. I don't know who she is. Should I know who she is?
Just Lisa?
Yeah, that's all it says.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa forgot her pants. So Lisa is wearing stockings and a blouse, and she forgot the rest.
Charming.
Okay, so
you know
that's
what's so funny about that pants thing? I just saw today a headline from one of the newsletters that they sent to me that said, "Celebrities who pull off the no pants look best." I was like, what?
No,
funny. We didn't do that at Unite IE when we were together. We all had bottoms on. Thank goodness.
Yeah, there were. But then, to be fair, there were some really beautiful dresses. Okay, I want to say I think my favorite outfit of all is Zendaya wore just an absolutely stunning white suit, white shirt, white vest. It looks like, and a white hat, and it is just gorgeous.
I saw her, and I think she does pretty well most of the time. She always dresses well for herself. There was another one. I can't remember who the celebrity was, but it was a white lace, like very long sleeve, tight fitted with a really pretty train. And I was like, okay, that I kind of liked. It didn't look bridally. It was very pretty. But what about, we can't bury the lead, Kamala Harris? She was there at the Met. I
haven't seen her outfit. What did she wear?
Well, I want to tell you that she actually looked a lot better than I thought she would. It was a mostly simple dress, like a high neck black dress that went nicely fitted to the floor. And then it had one white stripe that started at the neck. And it was kind of like, it went over her shoulder. It was almost like a chiffon-y white piece that hung to the floor. And it was really pretty. You know, it was black and white, very clean lines. So I'm going to say, well done. I think it's a tremendous amount of pressure if you're a politician to try to go to one of these events, especially with the crazy fashion, because you want to look like you belong, but you also can't be wearing like bird feathers. You
outrageous.
know, you have to. Yeah. So I think she did okay with that. But then the question is, why was she at the Met Gala? Why did she give a speech about Trump last week talking about the elephants at the San Diego Zoo? Why was she publicly at a very famous, prominent Black church in Inglewood for Easter Sunday service? Are you smelling a run for Kamala Harris? And is it going to be California governor, or is she going to run for president? And I got to tell you, at first I thought she was going to run for governor because that would be the easiest thing for her. She'd have the whole machine behind her. They would literally coronate her. But the more places I see her, the Met, just talking about Trump, not talking about California, I think she's going to run for president again. And I think she's going to have a hard time because, Katie, she was one of the people that lied to us for 4 years about Joe Biden's mental state. And I know a lot of people say, well, she only had 100 days in the race and she didn't get her fair shot. But she was part of the problem. She was there for 4 years and created a lot of what America wanted to get rid of when they voted for President Trump. So I'll be interested to see where she ends up. But clearly, she is sniffing around looking for her next opportunity.
She's never been able to get traction as a politician.
No.
So I think her day is gone. All right. Before we sign off, are you watching anything fun lately?
Nothing since last week, because this last week was very busy for me. I was doing a lot with that conference. Ask me if I even got to watch one TV show. I'm not sure that I did. Did you start anything new?
I did. Well, because I had this whole beautiful day on Friday to myself.
Yeah.
And so
what'd you watch?
So I watched the new series from Amy Sherman Palladino called Étoile. So if you remember, I don't know if you were ever a fan of Gilmore Girls.
I did like the Gilmore Girls. Okay. Yes.
So she and her husband were the team behind Gilmore Girls, which I loved. That was something just that Julia and I used to watch together, right? Because we were mom and daughter.
Sweet show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Julia was about the same age, and it was smart. It was a really smart show. It was well written. It was clever. It was cute. So this is her new series. It's just an 8-part series, but it is already committed to a second series. But it's incredible because it's real dancers. So it's the storyline is it's an exchange between the New York Ballet and the Paris Ballet. So it's not only do you get like all the drama, but you get all the beautiful dancing. So it doesn't resonate as deeply with me as Gilmore Girls did. It's a lot of it is kind of, almost silly. Like it's caricaturish, right?
Right.
But still the characters are compelling and I think it's worth watching. I'm enjoying it.
Love it. We also want to remind you that May is Mental Health Month, and that is something that President Trump just implemented. And he has done a lot. You know, as much as they like to make fun of President Trump for his sleeping habits or his eating habits or whatever, he really has done a lot. My favorite thing he did the first time around that he doesn't get a lot of credit for is the Right to Try initiatives, which I think are so important. He has always talked about mental health, and a lot of times there is that next step, which can go with drug addiction when people start to try to self-medicate when they're having mental illness issues. So well done to President Trump for designating May Mental Health Month. And I said to you, what do you do for your mental health? And I told you there's a beautiful garden by my house. And even more than just getting outside and going for a walk in the neighborhood, I love going to this place and seeing the flowers and seeing the trees and feeling nature, getting some oxygen in my lungs. And I'm telling you, if I have a bad day and I go there, even if it's just for a quick half hour or for an hour, I feel so much better when I come out.
I think that's mine too. I have my garden outside and it's just, I love getting out there and just working in the dirt and seeing what's coming up each day. And it was one of the things that really struck me, Casey Means has been getting a lot of attention for her book, which I don't remember the name of the book, but you can hear her. She has a great podcast a great interview with Andrew Huberman on Huberman Labs. And one of the things, so she's very focused on health and what we're eating and how we need to live. But what I thought was so beautiful at the very end of the interview, she talks about the fact how different our lives are now because of the fact of social media and all the news and all the regular media. In a lot of ways, if you think about it, we are constantly inundated with the problems of the world, right? You think about all the crises that we see, all the terrible news that we see, and really what a burden that is on our souls. And she said, plus the fact that we are enclosed inside of our 4 walls most of the time, right? Yep. And she said she really feels like the best antidote to the anxiety that so many of us live with is just to walk outside and just experience the wonder and the beauty of the world. And she said there is nothing as calming as that. And I think she's really right.
And obviously that's what you and I both gravitate towards when we're feeling it. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to get Katie's book. It's called Next Gen Marxism, and you can give her a follow on social media. Search for Catherine Gorka. You can also follow her on Twitter or X at Gorka Katie. You can also check out her website, katiegorka.org, and you can find me on social media too at Jennifer Horn Radio on Instagram and Facebook, and at Jennifer Horn on X and on Truth. Thank you so much for those 5-star reviews and for your comments. We see them all, and we appreciate you sharing Happy Women with your friends. So connect with us on all the platforms, SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Happy Women. Thanks for joining us. It's another episode of the Happy Women Podcast.